get more coverage, but I think you could solve nearly all these questions if they had an expanded playoff system, which I started talking about when I was an assistant at the University of Kentucky. And, you know, if you had, I think 64 teams, but I think the minimum is 16. If you had 16 teams, then I think we could settle a whole lot of these issues. You know, it doesn't matter if the East Coast or Los Angeles or anybody in between things. All of a sudden there's 16 teams. Oh, geez, number 16 beat number 4. Well, screw number 4. Number 4's out, you see, because number 16 got them. You know, I mean, that'd pretty well solve all of it, wouldn't it? And then 32, you could easily do 32. And then, you know, the most stunning thing, and I give this lecture probably 3 times every year, but then college football says they scratch their head and they give a really befuddled, mixed up look, and they get a really screwy expression on their face. Like, well, how can that possibly be? I mean, how can we do that? I mean, how is it possible that you could actually have a playoff format in college football? Well, gee, I don't know. Let's start with, we can go down to the local city park, and I'll bet you somebody that handles youth football can tell you how to do something like that. Well, that's too low of a scale. Let's move it up a little bit. Okay, how about high school from a major state? Let's say Texas, Florida, or California. Let's see how they do it. Okay, let's see. These guys, you know, they win a certain number of games. They have a qualification. Okay, now, boom, they're in the playoffs. But they don't have just 2 or 4 teams or something. Hell no, because they want everybody to have fun and enjoy this playoff system. So they have 16 or 32 or 64 or something like that. Okay, so then they play each other, and everybody's on the edge of their seat going to wait and see if this team's going to beat that team or going to beat the other team. And so then, in the end, there's occasionally a debate. If only this team hadn't lost to that team in this round, then this team could have won the whole thing, and that's perhaps true. But the thing that is indisputable is that at the end of the gauntlet, this team came out on number 1, and there's no debate whatsoever who's state champion. Then you can go to Division 3. Let's see, how do they do it? Oh, they do it the exact same way. Okay, now the suspense is really starting to get thick because, you know, Division 2 might do it differently. No, in fact, they don't. They do it exactly, boys and girls, like Division 3 does. And then now they've changed the initials because in this era of political correctness, they love to change initials and make it proper to say things one way instead of another. And I forget what the initials is. But then they go to 1AA. Okay, and 1AA. How do they do it in 1AA? 1AA. I mean, because that's getting closer to us, and we're really sophisticated because we're major 1A. How do they do it in 1AA? You know what? They have a playoff format, and they play it, and they figure it out. And then, okay. Well, they're all below us. Okay, what about above us? The NFL. And everybody, you know, that just makes you feel good to roll those initials off your, it's like Huckleberry Finn said, some days I just have to swear to get a good taste in my mouth. Okay, so then NFL. Now that makes my mouth feel good because that's the best and they're the top. Let's see here. How did they figure out their champion? Well, they in fact organize a playoff system. And how many teams are in there? A hell of a lot more than 4. And then they sort it all out, and then they have one battle after the next. And at the end, guess what? They sort out a champion, and it's called the Super Bowl. And there's not interest diminished because people are captivated by the playoffs. And the biggest sporting event every year in the history of the world is the Super Bowl. Okay, any questions?
How many regular season games would you play with a 16-team playoff? Because like Division 3, I think they play 10 games rather than 12 or 13 like you play in.
Well, okay, so in major college, or in major big high school states, usually a champion plays 16. So I think your target point is 16. So you shoot for 16. And then that's what a Division 2 ends up to. A Division 3, maybe it's 15. 1AA, usually it's 16. Major high school, it's 16. NFL, it's more than that. So I think our target's 16. and you could easily, start it out. And then the other thing that I think college foolishly does is they just give the NFL December. I mean, there's no sense in that. I mean, you could be having playoff games there in December, and everybody could potentially live happily ever after. And then the other thing is you could even sort the schedule in such a way that you have an off week 1 week, half of America has an off week 1 week, the other half has an off week the next week, and you never have to play somebody after the off week. If you wanted to go 64, which I think would be brilliant, 10 regular season games. 10 regular season games. Okay, play your 10 games. Okay, then, but everybody's guaranteed 12 for their budget, and this would be exciting too. Everybody's guaranteed 12. Play your 10 regular season games. Okay, and then get to 64. Okay, so you're playing, and then halfway in between the 10 regular season games, like say around 5 and 6, half the country's off, and half the country's playing. The other half of the country's off, the other half of the country's playing. Okay, so you have a built-in break. Okay, so then, as you get towards the end of the season, some teams know they're not going to make the 64. So you have a week off to select the 64. So on that week off, a couple teams that know they're not making the 64, they schedule, for one of their 12 games, they schedule it, and so it's like, somebody say on the West Coast, play somebody way over on the East Coast, so we can sort out all this East Coast bias we're talking about. I mean, maybe that team could get to the bottom of it, and we would all be enriched by what they discover. Okay, so then after they get done doing that, then you've sorted the 64, and several teams have done one of their 12 games, their additional games are allowed. Okay, then the first of the 64, you go home and home with somebody locally, kind of within your region. So, you do something nearby, something like, just depending how the season goes or whatever. Maybe it's Oregon versus Utah State, so you do a home and home. Whoever's got the best record, the team with the worst record has to come to your place. You play home and home. Okay, so then after that, you get the bowls involved. But you're at the bowls for a shorter period of time because you're just basically getting there to the bowl, doing it. But the bowls know how to put on big games. And then the bowls, the number works out almost perfectly for the additional games. The additional playoff games. Okay, so then after that you get the bowls involved, and then it's other locations. And I do think there should be some more northern locations as we sort this out. Okay, so then about halfway through that playoff system, you could have another break. Okay, and then the teams that haven't finished out their 12 games, they could play during that period of time. And I get a kick out of it, and it's just comical. They say, well, nobody would watch those games. Oh, baloney. I mean, my wife would watch them. I'd go home and after a hard day's work, and there's something on Thursday, and you want to know where the sandwich stuff is and the grocery stuff is. Well, you can't because she's watching the game. There's a game on Thursday. I mean, somebody in the MAC's playing, and oh my gosh, are they going to score? Are they going to stop them? I don't know, but I know this. I'm not going to be able to sort out where all the groceries are anytime soon on that, because I don't go in the kitchen that much, so I'm just pulling cupboard doors open. And so then, heck yeah, they'd watch, and they'd watch a lot. And then, and you could make the matchups real interesting and everything else. Okay, so then, then you get back to the playoffs, and so you go. You could get it all done by January 1st or sooner, depending on how you did it. And you can even just map out the weeks, and it works out pretty easy. And then the other thing is heck yeah, people watch. And if there's something riding on the game, there's all of a sudden people, just like they do in basketball, they'd select teams and dark horses or favorites that they wanted. They'd have little, they have little sheets with you know, office pools and everything else, and, you know, they would, they'd either laugh and taunt their friends or the other way around as their team did well, and, yeah, it'd be fantastic. And there's no disputing that it would make a lot more money. It's just who gets the money, and I think that's the biggest rub on the whole thing.
Let's go to